And welcome back to Wandering Through Wayne's World. You know, you guys who follow me for years know how sick I was on my deathbed and how they gave me antibiotics and put me in kidney failure. Medicine is changing, things are changing, new ideas are coming about that were older ideas, I believe. And with me is someone that's more of an expert than I am, Catherine Silva, and you are a holistic health counselor.
I am.
I got that right?
Yeah.
Cool. That's the hardest part of this job is the person's name and what they do. All right, what's a holistic health counselor?
We look at whole body.
Okay.
As an example, if we look at our current Western medical paradigm, they really just look at the mechanics of what is wrong with our knee. They may do an MRI, they may do lab tests on whatever's going on, and then they try and fix it. It's almost like taking our car in to get the oil changed or a tire changed, and then they send you home, and we wonder why something else pops up. So what I do is I reconnect the mental, emotional, and the spiritual with the physical together. As a matter of fact, in her book by Candace Pert, Molecules of Emotion, she says that in the 1600s, 17th century, Rene Descartes, who's considered the father of modern medicine, made a turf deal with the Pope. And the deal was, Descartes could have bodies to dissect, but he could only be concerned with the physical. The Pope said, the mental, emotional, and spiritual belong to me. And that's when medicine really disconnected from that paradigm, because if we look at traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, all that, they go way back, and they always asked, what's going on in your life? You know, as you mentioned, we were talking earlier, stress, right? So, and unresolved emotional conflicts, traumas, shocks, we all experience those, and it's how we process them through our perspective. And so when something shows up years later, it's usually some sort of traumatic event that the brain has identified and triggered as similar. And so when we ignore the emotional messages, ultimately it surfaces as a physical condition.
And we talk about, you know, and any of you guys who were kind of stressed, you know you always get sick faster when your body is weaker emotionally. Also, our bodies are meant to heal themselves, and I talk about this because I was in the hospital on my deathbed, okay, and I needed a kickstart for modern medicine, but once that kickstart kicked in, my body was ready to heal itself. They wanted me to be on steroids for the rest of my life. I've been off steroids for 8 years, and my body is in the condition that it was prior, except for the loss of the lung function.
Right.
That happened during this event. So you got to believe that this controls a lot of the rest of what you go through. What about things that happen in someone's past? We were talking off the air about my story, being molested as a child.
Yep.
Okay, and that I kept it in for 42 years. And we were talking about the person that molested me, and you said something that really kind of struck me, in that he just didn't pick that up. That could have been a learned lesson from him. How does that come about?
Well, that's probably the $1 million question.
Yeah, that's why I asked you. You're the expert.
And I'm not going to say that I know and have all the answers, but it would be very interesting to begin to talk to somebody like that to see if they would actually have an admission or confession. Well, when I was 8 or when I was 10, my uncle or my grandfather or my neighbor did this to me. So I guess that's where I would start, and the only person that would truly know is your uncle. It was
Right.
your uncle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I would also say that it's very interesting with this whole Me Too movement that's going on, because I think it's more pervasive in our society than we have any idea. I would say the good news to all this is once it is released, it can be healed. But until we actually acknowledge that we have a problem, we can't begin to heal it. So we could take this as an example with all things, right? Diabetes, right? You've heard the term, give me some sugar, right? Well, what does that mean? Give me some love. Diabetes is about giving and receiving love of how we need it. Because you also the 5 languages of love, right? So there may be a mother who doesn't touch, but she writes her children notes, or she may give them affirmation, right? You did such a good job, in school today. I'm really proud of you. But lo and behold, 20 years down the road, maybe this child actually just needed a hug, right?
Yeah, I get it. And I guess it goes back to energy, because we share energy, and a hug brings us closer, that energy closer. I don't care what anybody says. In the years I'm interviewing, I've learned a lot about energy, and some things that might seem far-fetched to most really are or could be proven factual. Tesla came up with energy can cross the globe, okay? And there's this thing where if you have a viral infection, you can take a picture of it, like a cold sore, and send it to this guy, and he puts it in this machine with a picture of that, and it sends energy back and can heal you. Now, it sounds far-fetched.
Sounds like homeopathy, like cures like.
Okay, right. But I am not experienced enough to say it's not true. I've seen some strange things, especially when it comes to energy, and we are all energy. Let me ask you a question. So someone comes to see you, okay? I make an appointment, I come see you. What are you going to ask me?
Okay, the first thing I do is I ask for the diagnosis.
Okay.
Okay, I have them fill out a questionnaire, and any hurts or traumas or accidents or things that they've had over their lifetime, their mother has had, their father has had. So I begin to look at that. And what I do is I go and look at each condition, and then it begins to tell me a story. And when it tells me a story, then I know where to start. So the three most important things of healing is, first of all, we have to give verbal permission, pure intent that we want to heal. Because you say that, well, how can you say that? Some people just want relief, right? Because that's how they get their love. If they end up in the hospital, their son comes to see them, or their daughter comes to see them, or whatever. So we really, truly want to have to heal. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, true healing is about work, doing work on ourselves, whatever unresolved emotions we have inside of us. It's about self-worth and self-love and self-esteem, because we have to love ourselves, and most of the time that's another, what I would say, rampant condition that we have in our society, is that we don't truly love ourselves. We're very judgmental of ourselves, we're very critical of ourselves, we always want to be like the neighbor next door, or carry this particular thing or that thing, because then we're accepted. So if we actually come from a place where we truly love ourselves, we don't need to compare ourselves with anybody else. And the last thing is vibrational shift, because that increases the vibration. All disease is a low consciousness condition, and when we have high vibration, the key doesn't fit in the lock. Very
Interesting.
simplified.
You wrote a book.
I did.
Okay.
I'm working on a second one, but that's
All right. So what induced you to write this book?
you know what? It's very interesting. It's sort of my story.
Okay.
I write a blog once a month, and this is I had about 110 blogs that I had written.
Ah.
And so I took it and started asking questions. So it's questions about life, questions about death, questions about communication from the other side. It's some deeper than most people want to go, but it's sort of anecdotal stories of lessons that I have learned along the way. And I looked at from when I found out I was getting divorced. My husband filed without me knowing, so that was quite a shock, right? And so you process through that grief and that loss. And then in 2016, my son got married, so all the family came together again. And I realized that in that particular milestone, that there was no emotional hatred. There was just, when I saw my ex-husband and his wife, and I said, wow, it's somebody that I used to know, but it didn't trigger a lot of excess negative emotional response. And I said, wow, from where I was in 2006 to when David got married in 2007, I feel like I have really grown and developed, and this was perhaps one of my greatest lessons. And so, the last thing I will say is my stepmother said, well, I think we need a list. And that was the biggest thing, is there is no list, because our souls and our journey is unique as a snowflake, and each snowflake is different. And so I offer some words of wisdom, but in the end, it's our own journey.
How do people get in touch with you? How do people find out about the book?
They can call me directly, 954-661-1972. Again, 954-661-1972, or they can email me at Kathy with the C, C-A-T-H-Y, silver, like the color, health@gmail.com. And I'd love to talk to you.
You know, it doesn't take anything but a little time to make a call and learn, and knowledge is king, okay? We float along in our world with little bits of knowledge and make determinations with little bits of knowledge, and that's why when you go on Facebook, you see all these fights and arguments, because people have a little bit of knowledge, and instead of doing the full research, they fight with one another, and we can't agree to disagree.
Well, it's interesting because reality is kind of a changing perspective, right? And basically, I think our consciousness changes our reality. So even in this book, I use a quote by Dr. Todd, who is from Hopkins, and he says, when the mind doth end, disease can end, or change, disease can end. I think I kind of messed that up. The point being is it all starts and ends in the mind. And when we change our perspective on no matter what we're dealing with, we have the opportunity to not only enrich ourselves, grow and expand, but be totally healthy. So
With that, everybody, check her out. We'll be right back. Thank you so much.
thank you. It's been a pleasure.